Hey guys, this is from Steph to you, bringing you my UFC Fight Night Berlin fantasy picks and predictions. Let me just kind of reiterate something I've already said, that I'm kind of gearing these fights towards fantasy MMA as well. And I do my fight predictions, but sometimes a guy can lose a fight and still get you a good fantasy output based on strikes, or if I think it's going to go to a decision. Also, I look for guys that maybe might kind of be an unknown, but if they have a high finish rate, especially if it's in the first round, I'll take a flyer on them, because you can't have all these top guys on there. So we'll just take a flyer on those guys and see if it pays off. So did pretty well in the last UFC 188. I called the Fabricio Verdum submission, and we did very well with that one. But anyway, let's get started. First up in the bantamweight, we have Taylor Lapilus versus Oka Sasaki. Lapilus comes in, he's the shorter fighter, he's coming at 5'6", Sasaki is 5'10". Lapilus comes in with 9 wins, he's got 6 submissions. I saw one of his last fights, I can't remember who he was going against, but he controlled the fight. He's got some pretty good kickboxing. He's got a 90% takedown defense rate, and I actually think that he will, if he can keep the fight standing, I think he should win this one. Sasaki, he just got submitted by Leandro Iza in his last fight. He's coming in with 9 submissions, 2 knockouts, 18-2. He's got 7 decisions. So for a fantasy standpoint, he's not really gonna, unless he can get a quick submission, he's not really gonna score you that many. I actually am taking Lapilus in this fight, but Sasaki would probably be for the fantasy. He probably, if he can get the finish, he should be able to get you some points. Although at 10,800 on DraftKings, I wouldn't recommend him. So take Taylor Lapilus in this one. Next up in the lightweight division, we have, and I might butcher some of these guys' names, but we have Piotr Hallmann versus Magomed Mustafaev. And I think Hallmann's a great, especially for fantasy. I think he's going to be probably one of the stars of the night. He comes in 15-3. Magomedov, this is his debut, and he's coming in 11-1. But the good thing about Hallmann is, out of his 15 fights, he has 14 finishes, 7 submissions, 7 knockouts. He can kind of win the fight really anywhere. He had a split decision loss to Gilson Tebow not too long ago, and so he's fought some pretty tough guys. But I would definitely take Hallmann in this one, especially because Mustafa, he's really, this is his debut, and I don't really think that he's going to win. Next up in the middleweight division, we have Scott Askham versus Antonio Dos Santos, or if you want to call him Junior Alpha. I really think that Junior Alpha will actually win this fight. I've watched some tape on him. He's got some pretty brutal knockouts, especially for fantasy MMA. He comes forward a lot. He's not really a counter puncher. He's very aggressive. Scott Askham, though, the thing about him is his reach. He's coming in at 6'3", which is pretty tall, especially considering Dos Santos coming in at 5'10". Now, Askham is the favorite. He's got 7 knockouts, 2 submissions. His striking accuracy is at 82%. But the problem is that for fantasy MMA, he's not really that good, because he's only throwing he's only getting 2 significant strikes per minute. So he won't have a really high output. I think if he wins, it'll be a decision. But at $8,700 on DraftKings, I would take Dos Santos. If he can hit Askham with some hard shots, I think he might be able to get you a knockout, or even get him to the ground and finish him. So I'm taking Dos Santos in this one. I also kind of have a lot of underdog picks for this card. So next up in the featherweight, we have Niklas Backstrom versus Noad Lahat. Lahat I haven't really seen too much of, to be honest. Backstrom, he's coming off of some pretty convincing wins. His last opponent, I believe, he did lose to Mike Wilkinson a while back. Backstrom's coming in 8-1. He's got 50% striking accuracy. Lahat coming in 8-1. He doesn't have, his striking is 33%. Both these fighters are only putting out 2.5 significant strikes per minute. So I'm not really looking for this to be a big fantasy fight, but I would take Backstrom because of his experience and he hasn't really, he's only has the one loss, and so I would take Backstrom, but I would stay away from this one for a fantasy. Next up in the featherweight division, we have Arnold Allen versus Alan Omer. Now, Omer hasn't fought in a while. Arnold Allen, I think he took this on short notice. I'm pretty sure this is his debut. He's coming in with 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He does have 1 decision loss. Omer's got 6 knockouts and 10 submissions. I think Omer can get this fight to the ground. He'll have a really good chance of submitting him. He also has had some knockout power. He lost his debut versus Jim Allers a while back, and he's got a very high output. He's got 57% striking accuracy, and also 3.8 significant strikes per minute. So I would take Alan Omer in this fight. I think he'll get you some, even if he doesn't finish him, he'll get some pretty good output for strikes. And also keep in mind, in this card, there's only one upper weight class fight, which is the middleweight fight between Askham and Dos Santos. So with the smaller guys, you tend to get more submissions, not so many knockouts. Next up in the lightweight division, we have Mairbek Taisumov and Alan Patrick. This is a really tough one. Alan Patrick's coming in undefeated, and Taisumov is coming in 23-5. He's got 12 knockouts, 9 submissions. I've seen some fight tape on him. He's got a lot of different ways to finish the fight. Alan Patrick coming in, his accuracy is not as good. He's doing 33% accuracy, whereas Mairbek is doing 42% accuracy. They both put out about almost 3 significant strikes per minute. And the one thing here, though, is Taisumov, he's coming in with 77% takedown defense, and Patrick, he's kind of 100% takedown defense. So this, I think, will stay standing, and if it does, I think Taisumov will actually be able to get the knockout. So he's a big pick for this one, and I would look for him to score big. Next up in the featherweight division, we have Makwan, Amirkhani, and Masio Fullen. Now, this one I think is a big, juicy fight. This is one of the guys I would pay top dollar for. Amirkhani, he's very impressive. I liked watching him. He's coming in 11-2. He just had a flying knee knockout in his debut a while back. He's got 8 submissions, the 1 knockout, 85% striking accuracy. Fullen, I really haven't seen too much on him, to be honest. I watched some clips just to see, get a general idea of what he can do. He's got coming in at 10-4. He did win a split decision in his debut, but his striking, he's only got 30% striking accuracy. He's only putting out 2.7 significant strikes per minute. I just really wouldn't look for him to win. I think Amirkhani will definitely take this one, and that would be a big fantasy pick that I would pay top dollar for. Next up, we have Hein versus Lukasz Sajewski. Now, Sajewski, this is his debut, and there's not much tape on him against any top tier fighters. He's coming over from Poland, or up from Poland, but I really think he can win this fight. And Hein, everybody was really high on him after his victory over Drew Dober, but I really didn't think he was that good in that fight. He's coming in at 11-2. He's got 6 decisions though, so from a fantasy point, I wouldn't pay anything like this for Hein. But I do think Sajewski can get you some nice things. He's 13-0, 7 submissions, 2 knockouts. I've watched some tape on him. He's really crafty on the ground. So if you're looking for a low risk, high reward, I think Sajewski can get you some good fantasy points, especially if he can get to the ground. I think he'll be able to get off his submission. So take a and here's another nice stat for Sajewski, just to make my point. He's got 7 first round finishes. So if you're on DraftKings, the first round finish is big. He's got 6 submissions and 1 knockout in the first round, and so definitely take a look at that. I think he can get you some nice value. Next up, we have Peter Sobotta versus Steve Kennedy. Now, Sobotta is probably the only guy that I would pay in really high money for. He's coming in at 10,900 on DraftKings. He's got a record of 14-4, 9 submissions, 4 knockouts. He only has 1 decision win. He's been submitted once and 3 decision losses. But here's the thing: besides for his last fight, 5 fights before that, he had a streak of first round rear naked choke submission finishes, and I think he could definitely get you guys some good fantasy points, especially if you can get a submission in the first round. Stephen Kennedy, I think he's taking this fight on short notice, if I'm not mistaken. He comes in at 22-6. This is his debut. His 8 knockouts, 9 submissions. I've only seen, I think, 2 clips on him. I don't really look at him doing anything. I think Sobotta will probably finish it first round. So this is a big pick for fantasy. It's going to cost you quite a bit, but I think it'll pay off. Next up in the featherweight division, you have Dennis Siver versus Tatsuya Kawajiri. I'm actually going to take Kawajiri in this one. I think, he's fought some tough guys. He's fought Gilbert Melendez, Claywita. He's fought some pretty tough dudes. So is Siver. He fought Cub Swanson. He fought Conor McGregor. He fought Rosa. He fought Spencer Fisher. So he's fought some Donald Cerrone, another guy. He's fought some tough guys, but he hasn't really done very well against those top tier guys. So I would definitely. I'm actually going to lean towards Kawajiri. He's got. Let's see here. He's got 12 knockouts, 10 submissions. I just think that he could actually finish the fight. And I wouldn't look at this as a big fantasy play anyway. But if you are going to take someone from this, I definitely would take Kawajiri just because I believe that he can finish the fight in more places than Siver. I think Sever's kind of overrated. But both these guys are kind of on the end of their career. Kawajiri's 37, Sever's 36. So I wouldn't look for too much from this fight. And then in the main event, we have Joanna Jedrzejczyk versus Jessica Penne. And Jessica Penne is interesting because she's got a lot of submissions. She can do a lot off of her back, and her wrestling is not too bad. Her striking, I think the problem with her striking is she's always kind of waiting. She never really gets off first. Whereas Joanna Jedrzejczyk, she's coming off a big win against Carla Esparza. She did have the knockout in that one, although I think that was more of just a stylistic thing. But at 11,300 from a fantasy standpoint, I do think she'll win, but I don't think that it'll be worth it for the fantasy when you got other guys that have, like Peter Sobotta, that can get you finishes. I do think she'll win the fight. She's got a 34% punching accuracy. She's putting out 3.5 significant strikes per minute, and she's got an 80% takedown defense. Jessica Penne, her only chance of winning this fight, again, if you want to take her as a fantasy flyer, I would say she could possibly get you a submission, but I think that Jedrzejczyk's going to want to keep this fight standing as much as possible, and with that in mind, I would take Joanna Jedrzejczyk. But again, if you're looking for someone on a lower level at 8,300, you can take Penne and just kind of hope for the submission. But anyway, so like, subscribe. This is From Step to You, and we'll see you later.